I want to welcome you tonight. I want you to enjoy the forum. I hope you learn about the candidates. Well, I know that you will. And welcome to Monday Night Politics. Jolie?
Thank you, Miss Molly Bell, and I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to be a moderator for Monday Night Politics again this evening. Thank you to Christy and Miss Robin for your amazing work, and for all that you do behind the scenes to ensure that Monday Night Politics goes off without a hitch, or if it has some hitches, we'll just keep rolling and go over it. As I said last week, I kind of feel like Miss Frizzle, the Magic School Bus in this wonderful journey of Monday Night Politics, but this really is about local politics, which is absolutely important and critical for us in the city of Dallas. We're all living life a little differently now because of COVID, but we'll jump right into the candidates that we'll be hearing from this evening. I put all of our amazing sponsors in the chat, so you're able to see those sponsors. So thank you for folks like the NAACP Dallas chapter, the Dallas Panhellenic Council, the Commish Radio Show, the African American Museum, Dr. Harry Robinson, which we typically hold it there. Thank you for those sponsors. And I'll continue to say that periodically throughout the night. A couple of dates to remember. Early voting starts Monday, April 19th. Don't forget that. Make sure all your information is up to date. If you're not registered and you need to get registered, April 1st is the deadline for that. So you have a little bit of time. And then the official election day is May 1st. I'm looking down at my notes because I don't want to forget, but the official election day is May 1st. So I'm going to ask all of the candidates. We're going to be for District 5. We're talking this evening to our District 5 candidates. Please reveal yourself on your cameras. So I know we have Miss Yolanda Faye Williams, we have Ruth Torres, we have Jaime Resendez, and we have Terence Perkins. I'll give you all a second to, there we go. Look at our amazing candidates. Wave to the folks out there in the virtual space, amazing candidates, so that they can see you. A little advice or a tidbit from last week. Someone emailed Miss Belt and just asked for the whole duration of this time, if you can just be sure to keep your camera on, unless there's something massive happening in the background and you need to turn your camera off. The way I like to do it, there's no official order. There's just an order that I have on my little sheet here that I'll go in to ask you the questions. Everybody gets 2 minutes for the introduction. 2 minutes for the intro of yourself, anything you want to say. And then after that, when I'm asking the questions, you'll get a minute apiece. I'm also going to try to keep an eye on the questions that come through from those out there in our virtual space that are in attendance. Everybody ready to get started? I can see the excitement just oozing out of you. It's going to be first Miss Yolanda Williams and then Miss Ruth Torres. Again, Christy keeps track of time, so if she has to cut you off, she will mute you or cut off your camera, so just be mindful of your 2 minutes. I try to also give some verbal / nonverbal cues when your time is ending. Go ahead, Miss Yolanda Williams.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Miss Molly Bell, and good luck to all the candidates. I'm Yolanda Faye Williams. I'm a native of Dallas, and I'm a long life resident of Pleasant Grove. My hashtag is I'm Pleasant Grove Proud. I wear that very, very dearly to my heart. I went to graduated from 8th grade at Spruce, undergrad UNT, Texas A&M Commerce. I am not an activist. I'm just someone who loved District 5 in Pleasant Grove. I've served 5 years on the park board, and I have numerous accomplishments that I was able to do with the help of my colleagues for all of us in District 5. There are so many great things I did, but the biggest accomplishment was the water park, the Cove at Crawford, and also the $7.5 million for a lake, a signature lake at Crawford Park. And just on a couple of weeks ago, last month, the city council approved for the land for the football complex. The Pop Warner community reached out to me and they desperately said that we needed a football complex in Pleasant Grove. So I'm so excited and I look forward, and I just love Pleasant Grove, and I'll be able to share a couple of the things I've done in the past and what I've done since the pandemic. Just registering seniors, 50 seniors would register for the vaccine. I personally took some seniors in my own car to get their first and second shot. And I've also continued the turkey drive. So I'm just so excited to be here and just share with all the audience all the great things that I've done in the past and what I will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Miss Yolanda Williams. Next, it'll be Ms. Ruth Torres, and then it'll go to Jaime Resendez.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ruth Torres for Dallas District 5. I am a working class mom, small business owner, and former business professor. And after almost 12 years in Dallas, I feel a duty to fight for the bold change working families deserves. I believed that after my work of 25 years helping people start up and expand their businesses, that there would be more equity and justice, but that isn't the reality. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. It's time for change, for ethics and accountability in government, for safe streets to walk, to sleep without gunshots. It's time for good paying jobs at businesses that build our community instead of everyone else's. It's time for change that builds opportunity to end cycles of poverty. It's time to give all our kids change and hope for a decent life when they study, work hard, and make good decisions. That's the duty of all of us. I am the only candidate with the business skills, ethics, and commitment to fight for the bold change our community deserves. It's time for results, for equity. It's time to vote for bold change and a vote for Ruth Torres.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. After Mr. Jaime Resendez will be Terence Perkins.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jaime Resendez. I'm a U.S. Army combat veteran. I'm an attorney, and prior to serving on the city council, I was the representative in Southeast Dallas on the DISD school board. To me, education is the foundation of society, but one of the things that I learned while I was serving on the school board is that the education of our students is impacted by a lot of issues like criminal justice, housing, economic development, transportation. All of those things impact the ability of our students to learn and be successful. And those are the things that the city council addresses, which is why I decided to run for city council in 2019. I'm currently the incumbent, and I represent a community in which I was raised. Every single school that I attended is in Southeast Dallas. Prior to graduating from high school, I joined the military. I was still 17 years old, and I ended up serving a year-long tour of duty in Baghdad, Iraq. And that's the experience that changed my life. I came back, enrolled in community college at Eastfield, and ultimately graduated from the University of Texas School of Law. So now I'm an attorney, and I look forward to the conversation this evening and the question of the people who are listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Mr. Terence Perkins.
Thank you for having me this evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Terence Perkins, pastor of the Abundant Grace Church here in the Southeast Dallas area, as well as I work with a nonprofit organization that serves youth that are homeless teens. We currently house over 24 homeless teens here in the Southeast Dallas area, along with 150 kids in foster care throughout the DFW area. I have worked here with our nonprofit since 2005 in the Southeast Dallas area, meeting the needs of families and individuals that have been abused and neglected and disproportionality areas. Since in the community, since the COVID-19 hit, our church have moved forward and hit the ground running with grassroots efforts called P3, Perkins Pushing Out Poverty. We served over 6.6 million pounds of food and over 20,000 bottles of water here in the Southeast Dallas area for citizens that were in need since the COVID and the freeze that we had a few weeks ago. And I'm running for city council to make change in our community and definitely transparency. Not only that, to bring economic development and public safety is one of the main things that we like here in the Southeast Dallas area. So just glad to be here tonight and be a part of this panel.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Terence Perkins, and thank you to everyone. So I'm going to start now in reverse order with the question. The first question, and I've asked in the past that people write the question down if it comes to you, or maybe you forget what the question may be by the time it gets to you. But starting with Mr. Terence Perkins, then going to Jaime, what do you see as the top 3 priorities in your district, and how do you intend on addressing those priorities? After Terence, then it'll be Jaime.
Well, Jolie, I think in Southeast Dallas, we definitely like opportunity. Opportunity is definitely one of the things that we all strive for with affordable housing, resources for businesses, and as well as economic mobility and homeless solutions and dealing with poverty. My second one will be public safety, definitely dealing with our street racing, which has been a problem. We've had several people to lose their life here in the last couple of months in reference to street racing. Community policing is one of my key things that I'm really big on. I think if we bring our police and have their presence in the community, that'll cut back on our crime. Definitely ending gun violence. One of the other things will be quality of life. The grocery stores that we have, we consider it as a food desert, but I think the quality of food is not here in our community. Better roads and infrastructure, and definitely more resources during this pandemic, which is uncharted waters, such as COVID-19.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Christy, are you still with me with the time? I just want to be sure I'm listening out for the buzzer.
Yes, I'm.
Okay. Okay, good deal. Sometimes it's a little faint, y'all. So if you see me like doing this, it's like I'm trying to get closer to the screen, even though that doesn't really help. All right. Now, again, after Jaime, same question, it'll be Ruth.
So the top three priorities, public safety is always going to be number one, but we have to think about what public safety actually means. Obviously, there's a law enforcement aspect of this, and I've worked with DPD to address public safety issues, not just throughout the city of Dallas, but in Southeast Dallas specifically. With the street racing situation, I got involved in a high-speed chase on Buckner, and no one was talking about this issue during the last campaign. Now it's a priority. I've been a leader working to address this issue. So public safety is always a top thing, but we got to look at the root causes of crime, and that's what I've been working towards. The second priority is COVID-19 recovery. 75217 in Southeast Dallas in general has been heavily impacted by COVID-19. We have a large population of essential workers who are unable to work from home. So we got to make sure that people get the resources that they need in order to be successful long-term. And the most important thing right now is registering people. I've had several events where we've registered hundreds of people. Over 1,000 people have been registered because that's the most important thing we can do. Economic development.
Go ahead and finish your sentence.
I was going to say economic development is the third thing. And I've initiated 3 significant community development projects during my first term in the middle of the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. After Ruth, it'll be Yolanda.
All right, good evening, folks. Public safety, I agree, is one of the top priorities. And the street racing has been an issue ever since, to me, it really came to my attention when a little girl named Olivia was struck and killed with street racers. And so I wrote proposed legislation that was sent up. I contacted several dozen state legislatures, and there are 2 House bills right now that will be voted on that will require training be included in driver's licenses for new people, as well as people getting their license back. I also asked for increased punishment for those who are repeat offenders of street racing. So that's action that I have taken on public safety. I've also asked the city to look at, instead of street, like the speed bumps that we have, like the little lights. So there's some specific actions that I've asked for to improve the public safety and to make our streets safer. In regards to COVID, I have worked with several providers to get them to be included, to be a distributor of the COVID vaccine, so that we can have local people distributing the vaccine and including at homes where we have seniors that are homebound and disabled that can't get out.
Okay, thank you. Yolanda?
Unmuted. Okay, good afternoon. In 2017 and 2018, street racing was a problem. When I served on the park board, I actually have a 911 call where I called in, and Reverend Wright and I was in the car. We almost got hit. In September 2019, I emailed Councilman Resendez, and I informed him that my uncle and I was in the car and wanted to meet with him, and we almost got hit. So street racing have been addressed long prior before Mr. Resendez, Councilman Resendez. And also I like to say it's very important that we choose and elect someone who not just live in the district, who lives the district. Because why in 2019, when I ran, public safety was my #1 priority, quality of life. As I can recall, it was economic development for the council member Resendez, and public safety came last. The crime rate is up high in Pleasant Grove, and we're declining instead of moving forward. So I say all that to say, when you are talking about the next elected official who you want to represent you, it's important that you research and you do all your groundwork and everything. I serve on I'm suspended now on the Southeast Advisory Police Board. I have always been involved. Mr. Terence Perkins, my opponent, talks about community policing. We have the best community policing in the city of Dallas. The former Chief Brown started that community policing. So I ask you all to please, please, please just follow up and see what we have. We have a lot of great things, but what it's going to take is all the citizens joining into the VIP program. That's the volunteer in patrol. We already do that anyway. But if we can partner with our neighbors, say something, see something. If you see something, say something. Okay. And I believe once we do that, we will get the economic development that we desire in our.
All right. Thank you so much. Really, really great to hear your top 3 priorities. Again, and you know, people are trying to catch the chat, the Q&A as well. So people are also looking for really solid things that you yourself will do if you are elected to represent this district this go round. Again, everybody, we have a ton of sponsors. I was sure to add those in the chat. Dallas Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi, the Alpha Sigma Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. That's another one of our sponsors. If you're joining us, this is Monday Night Politics. I am Jolie Angel Robinson. I am honored to be the moderator for this evening and for the weeks to come. We'll be here next Monday as well for another district. You'll be able to hear from some different candidates. The next question I'm going to ask is specifically about development, be it economic, be it housing. And for this one, I'm going to start at Yolanda and go back down. Be it economic, housing, etc. What type of development is most critical to the overall city of Dallas and specifically for your district? And how would you support that development?
I think what's important and what the constituent is asking for, first of all, we need a variety of retail, mixed use retail where we can have some high rise. CF Hahn is on the east side. Those are mainly businesses and they have for sale signs. So I came up reimagine CF Hahn. If anyone been out I-30 Rockwall, we could have exactly that. I walked outside my house to the edge of the freeway and I could see the skyline. So if we can reimagine, that's the area that we can do take on and do it immediately. If we can reimagine CF Hahn. So I think with a mixed use, and believe it or not, everyone loves Starbucks. I think if we work on that, that would help us. And let's talk about housing. We need to define what is affordable housing. Affordable housing is for the working class. We want to bring the millennials back. So we have to find a way to bring them back. We have a lot of senior citizens who ask for a senior citizen housing. So if we can work on bringing in those combinations, I think it will bring up the disposable income. At the same time, it will help grow our economy. And so those are just some of the things that we can work on right now.
Okay, thank you. Ruth?
So I've spent over 25 years helping people to start up and expand their business. And I am going to be a very aggressive advocate on helping to start up and expand businesses from people that live right here in the district. Because until we can have businesses where we can increase our average income per household, we're not going to be able to attract the businesses like Starbucks. You have to have an average income of about $90,000 to attract that. I know what it takes to bring businesses in, and I know what it takes to start up those businesses because I've done it for 25 years. And that is what I'm going to do aggressively about that. I've also been involved for 2 years in the housing assessment, that project that came out from the, so we need to build mixed use, mixed income properties so that we are not having this density, this high concentration of poverty in one area. And so I would not block development. I would look for development that would bring what we need to our area with the mixed use, mixed income.
Okay, that's your time. Thank you so much. Jaime?
I think one of the most important things we can focus on in terms of development in the city of Dallas and in District 5 is the housing situation. we need to make sure that in a community like Southeast Dallas, we have high quality, affordable market rate homes. We have people who have grown up in this community, who have gone on and gotten an education, but do not have the high quality options to remain in this community and give back to the community. And those are the type of things when these businesses are looking in various parts of town, when they see not just rooftops, but quality rooftops where we have individuals with disposable income. Those are the things that would attract the businesses that we want, the grocery stores that we want. And so long term, we need to make sure that the way that we're developing our housing situation, we need to stop having these high concentrations of poverty in our community. I've pushed back on the developers that have reached out to me. All of them have been interested in utilizing low-income housing tax credits. And at this moment in time for District 5, particularly in Bruton and St. Augustine intersection, I don't think that having low-income housing tax credits is the way to go. And that's the way I've been pushing back on that. That's the same intersection that's been troubled and has had a high crime rate, one of the most dangerous intersections in our city. When I was on the school board, I brought the first talented and gifted school in Southeast Dallas is at that intersection. So I think we need to be careful about the way we develop our housing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Terence?
Yes, definitely affordable housing is something that we need to focus on in Southeast Dallas. As our councilman mentioned a moment ago, at the corner of Bruton and St. Augustine is a definitely high concentrated crime area. And a lot of big banks own the tax credit properties that are in our community. And that's something we do not need or want. Just a year ago, my neighbors and I, over 150 neighbors, got together and fought against a tax credit property coming in our community. And we stood together and we asked our planning and zoning representative, that's appointed by Mr. Resendez, to vote it down with prejudice. And he refused to, and they voted it down without prejudice, was give them an opportunity to come back in 2 years. When we don't give our constituents an opportunity to move forward and grow and develop, we only keep property in a high concentrated area. And so Southeast Dallas definitely don't need any more tax properties. Tax credit properties, we definitely need affordable housing where individuals become homeowners and stakeholders in the community. Myself, I grew up, went off to college, came back, and I am a homeowner, own several properties in Southeast Dallas. And there is a lack of properties and quality homes. And also, in order for retail businesses to come in, definitely we got to make sure that the income is there. And so with income being there, and I believe it is in Southeast Dallas, we just have to have more quality homes where to attract families to move to our area and then create more retail and shopping and things of such nature.
Okay, thank you. The next question, I'm going to start with Jaime, then I'm going to go to Ruth, and then I'm going to go to Terence, and then Yolanda. We got that order? Jaime, Ruth, Terence, and Yolanda. The digital divide is very real in our city, and the current pandemic, along with the most recent winter storm, has made that clearly evident. Generally, our older residents and those whose first language may not be English have experienced a lack of consistent communication from the city about resources. Please explain how you might address that problem.
I can talk about how I've already worked to address that problem. This day and age, you cannot reach your full potential without having internet access. Southeast Dallas has a large percentage, one of the largest percentage of households with children that lack internet access. I've been aware of this since I was on the school board. When I jumped on the city council, even prior to the pandemic, I don't have to go through a pandemic to understand the inequities in our community. I was pushing for increased internet access prior to the pandemic, and during the pandemic, I led the city's efforts to expand, to close the digital divide. Fortunately, there's even other municipalities that have been reaching out to the city of Dallas to see what we've been doing in terms of the hotspots, in terms of these light poles with Wi-Fi access, free Wi-Fi access for people in our community, including in District 5, in the Pemberton Hill community, and up there towards Skyline near Forney. So clearly, to me, the way I look at it is it's about equity and access to opportunity. That's actually what my logo is, and that's what I've been fighting hard for throughout my entire tenure, going on 5 years as an elected official on the school board and now on the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth?
Thank you for the question. The digital divide issue is not something that is going to be solved with a few hotspots, because if the network isn't there, it's not going to support it anyway. So I find it shameful that we have AT&T headquarters here, and we have this digital divide that is so obvious. So I have been pushing for saying, hey, we need AT&T to improve and provide that consistency here. All the service providers need to reach south of I-30 to provide it. But as a community, we have to have a communication system that is consistent. Our 311, our online postings, our community centers, we have to get united and have a way to reach people and give them information, including people who don't use the internet. And we don't have that now. When the storm hit and you called 311, those operators did not have the information, and the information was inconsistent and incorrect. So we have to work together with the city, with different providers, with the neighborhood organizations to have a neighborhood communication system.
Finish the sentence. Go ahead.
In order to make sure that we're effectively communicating and reaching everyone that needs that information on a timely basis.
Thank you. Terence, then Yolanda.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that the only way that we can bridge the communication gap is that we work and reach out to others with resources, work with other nonprofits, as well as work hand in hand with our city. And as well as there's a lot of churches in our community, and we can definitely work with them as well to reach those individuals that may not have access or the capability to receive communication in a timely fashion. I think word of mouth travels better than internet. You can pick up a cell phone nowadays and pick up the phone and just make one phone call and the word spreads all over town. And that's quicker than 5G. So we can always reach out to AT&T, is again, like what our opponent said, reach out to AT&T to bring better communication to our community, which is definitely needed. And definitely our city, put more resources into the communication effort for our families that cannot afford it, as well as work hand in hand with our school district and Dallas County to bridge that gap, to ensure that communication is very well provided for individuals here in Southeast Dallas.
Thank you. Yolanda?
I think what's needed, you have to bring balance. You need a representative who can balance, because where I live, we've been living with the Hispanic community for over 48 years. So although I'm not fluent in Spanish, I have partnered with some of our neighbors. I have a couple of seniors who translate when we need it to be translated. And actually, I just recruited one of my younger neighbors. He's 27 years old. So I asked him, would he get involved and help so he can bring the millennials in and try to help us. But it's important that the city owns the permit, so the city can communicate with the businesses and try to get them to add Wi-Fi. And I spoke before council 3 weeks ago when they were talking about the offering services for those who had their broken pipes. And I asked, how are they going to communicate? And if they can communicate through the water bill, every senior, everyone who does not have Wi-Fi, everyone opens up their water bill. We have to utilize the water bill as a way to communicate, because a lot of seniors in our community do not have internet. And I've been personally trying to teach them, but I can only do so much. So we need to utilize those services.
All right, thank you so much. Before I get into my next little round of questions, I want to say thank you to everyone out there in the virtual space for joining us this evening. Many thanks for our sponsors, which you'll see in the chat. We have so many that have supported Monday Night Politics. Thank you to Miss Molly Bell and her amazing team, Christy and Robin behind the scenes making it happen for Monday Night Politics. I'm Jolie Angel Robinson. I'm the VP of Government Affairs and Public Policy at Dallas Area Habitat. I'm also the co-chair of the Dallas Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Organization. And so my next question really is going to focus on equity. I've heard that word kind of dropped not only in this evening, but across the city over the last year or so about equity. So it's one of our city's current priorities. How would you see your role on the city council as supporting equity and advocating for equity in all city services and processes? I'm going to read that question one more time. It's a handful. Equity is one of the current city priorities. How would you see your role on the city council as supporting equity and advocating for equity in all city services and processes. This time I'm going to start with Ruth, then Yolanda, then Terence, and then Jaime.
Thank you. So I am, by now you guys know I'm not a passive person at all. I'm pretty aggressive. And this issue of equity needs aggressive action. Everybody keeps talking about it, election after election, but we don't get those results. I am going to be an aggressive advocate pushing for equity in every way. At economic development, I want to see that we have a lot more Black-owned, woman-owned businesses getting a piece of the pie and be included in bids. And everything needs to go out for competitive bid. In housing, every project needs to make sure that it is complying with federal laws and stop waiving the requirements. In every area, every process needs to have an equity lens to make sure that we start to undesign the red line and undo the damage that has been here growing for decades.
Thank you. Ms. Yolanda?
Equity is not bound by your ethnicity. It's not a Black issue. It's not a white issue. It's not a Hispanic issue. Equity hits us in all forms because depending on where you live, I'll tell you what I've done. When I served on the park board, they were talking about putting aquatics. And so one district was going to have 2 aquatics. Then I found out Fort North, they don't have any pools, no aquatics, but yes, they have a lot of money. And I asked my colleague, is it fair because they have money that we don't allow them to have a pool? And so they have a pool up there. And I also used the example when I served on the park board. They wanted to do away with the tribunal board. That's the board where you get to come if you're fired, you get to tell your say so. We get to hear your case before the board. Well, I stood my ground. I stood up for equity for all employees, and I was not going to let go. But the end result was 15-0. They all agreed that we need to keep that in place because everyone deserves to have their voice heard in the end. So when you talk about equity, first we need to define it. We must have a representative to understand that we live in a diverse group. You must bring balance. You have to know how to balance and have equity with the Blacks, the white, and the Caucasian. Until we understand exactly what equality and equity is, District 5 will continue to go backwards and not forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Terence and then Jaime.
Yes, I think sometimes equity and equality they're definitely interchangeable. When you think of equity, you think of race, gender, and as well as class. And when you think of equality, you definitely think of everyone being treated the same. Here in Southeast Dallas, we're definitely a diverse community, and everyone deserves the same opportunity, regardless of what color, race, or your sexual orientation may be. And that's something we want to strive for here in Southeast Dallas. In order for us to move forward, equality and equity is very important, and that's something that we have to strive for perfection within our city and ensure that the residents of District 5 are represented very well and as well are treated all the same. Again, regardless of their sexual orientation or their color or who they may be or what walk of life they come from. And so in reference to different contracts, I mean, I definitely think everyone should have an opportunity to those as well as other opportunities within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jaime?
Thank you so much for that question. I think it's important that we recognize that the history of the community we serve includes intentional decisions that have led to racial and economic segregation that produce major inequalities that persist to this day. Racial equity must be a central tenet in any policy discussion surrounding historical and systemic injustices experienced by certain communities in Dallas. We must address the atrocities of the past that continue to haunt us to this day, like slavery, segregation, Jim Crow laws, mass incarceration, and redlining, by heavily investing in the communities that have been impacted the most, particularly the African-American community. But equity is not just about race. I've been working for equity since I was on the school board. I noticed that we didn't have a talented and gifted school in Southeast Dallas County. When I grew up around some extremely intelligent people, we could fill up a whole tag school with the people in our community. And that's exactly what happened when I was on the school board. I'm the vice chair of the Workforce Equity and Education Committee for the city. And I've been pushing, like I mentioned, the internet access piece. That's equity right there. When we invest in communities of high need. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So sometimes during these conversations, we leave out the Parks and Rec portion of it. So there's a great question that came in a couple weeks ago, actually, about our Parks and Rec system. This time around, I'm going to start with Ruth, Yolanda, then Terence and Jaime. Our Parks and Rec system doesn't always get the necessary support and funding throughout all 14 council districts. Some residents feel that their particular district is often left behind in upgrades and amenities. Please provide your thoughts, clarify your commitment to our Parks and Rec system, and describe how you might address the lack of funding or support in your district.
So one of the things that I've asked for is on these bond issues, on the bond, I want to see the breakout on the utilization of bond dollars by district. And we need to look at that, in all the ways, in the parks, in the streets. We need to see that it's not just equal. Equal is not the same thing as equity, because if you've been deprived of access for years and decades, then what you need is a lot more investment than maintenance, what other areas might need. So my goal would be to really get that information and advocate for a fair amount of parks spending in my district, and no more of these bad contracts where, like the horse park and the golf course that the community can't even step on, that they have 20 years and 40 years of paying zero property tax or zero lease dollars for the horse park. And that may be what happens with the golf course unless the community gets involved. So we need to make sure that our city parks, the community is able to use them, access them, and that we're not spending taxpayer dollars for areas that we can't use. We need to have our parks and recs with good contracts that provide that we are having a quality of life and the parks investment in our district equal to what everyone else already has, which means we need more investment in ours than they need because they've already had that quality of life there. So that's what I'm.
Okay, thank you so much. Christy is keeping an eye on it. And so that was a mute. Are we ready? I think I said Yolanda, Terence, and then Jaime. And then for the next question, I'll go the other way around. Yolanda?
Well, thank you for this question. When I got on the park board, there were no bond funds. So as you all know, 2017, a bond was passed, and I fought hard and I advocated for us. Over $13 million for bonds, and all the projects are out there. So we do have more than enough. Not more than enough. We did get our fair share. And I also would like to just say, while I didn't serve on the park board at the time the horse park was put in place, but we support the horse park. That's directly in our community. We get offended because sometimes people think that Pleasant Grove, certain community, does not deserve nice amenity. The horse park has been great neighbors. Anytime you want to go there, they open their doors to seniors, anyone who lives in the surrounding community. Even if you don't live in the community, they will work with you. But I would like to say, yes, 2017 bond, we got more than our fair share. Yes, we need more, but we are going to accomplish a lot of things. The old National Guard Park is where they had the National Guard Armory. They tore that building down and they donated to the park. Okay. A new Guard Park is there, and $600,000 is put there so we can have a 5-acre park. Thank you.
Thank you. Terence, Jaime?
Yes, I think green space is very important here in Southeast Dallas. We do like that. I served on the park board as well. I think we only have about 13 parks here in our district, which is one of the lowest throughout the city. And there's definitely more amenities that are needed. I think every park, there should be a park within 10 miles of each home. And that's something that we strive for here in Southeast Dallas, as well as increasing our trails. Although while I was on the park board, we did get the Cleburne Raleigh Trail to come through. But there is money that is available. And one way that we could do that is go back to the drawing board. Let's go back and put pennies to pennies and dimes to dimes. And if we do that, we can do that and be able to monitor that and see where we can cut back on some of our spending and increase in other areas to ensure parks in Southeast Dallas get its fair share. And one way you can do that, Jolie, is that you sit at the table with your colleagues, and you can't be combative in argument. You have to sit at the table with your colleagues and work with them, and as well as work with the park department, the individuals that put the budget together, and see what funds that are available. And one of the grassroots things that we can do to our parks is that we can work with our friends group and raise funds and use match funds for those items.
Thank you. Jaime?
So Parks and Rec facilities provide a wide range of benefits to a local community. They contribute to economic development, and this type of investment in a community simultaneously increases home values, encourages neighbors to get to know each other, increases civic engagement, and improves public health at the same time. So since I've been on the city council, one of the things that I did is pull out my old bicycle that I had at my mom's house, who also lives in the district by Spruce, and I rode my bike on every single street in the district. I've been highlighting the incredible trails that we have in Southeast Dallas, the AT&T Trail. If y'all haven't been there, y'all need to check it out. You wouldn't even think you're in Dallas. But one of the significant projects that I initiated over by on Masters and Old Sigerville, which is where I grew up, there's a tract of land, 10 acres, that has been vacant pretty much my whole life. The city is moving forward on acquiring that property to potentially build a new park. And one of the other significant developments that I'm looking at is acquiring this old abandoned Carnival grocery store on Bruton and Buckner. The parking lot is massive. We can reclaim some of that parking lot, get some green space out there, have some food trucks out there, and the interior of that facility is massive. We can team up with the Park and Rec department, have some activities for our youth, for our seniors there. Thank you so much.
Okay, good deal. For this next round, I'm going to start with Jaime and go Terence, Yolanda, and then Ruth. Let's see. Our city's economy has been greatly impacted by COVID. What is the role of city council and specifically your intended action to support our growth as a city? I'll say it one more time. Our city's economy has been greatly impacted by COVID. What is the role of city council and specifically your intended action to support our growth as a city?
I think one of the most important things that a leader can do is lead by example. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been an advocate for following the science, ensuring that we're masking up, we're socially distancing, because again, 75217 in Southeast Dallas in general has been hit hard by the pandemic. Right now, we need to make sure that as many folks as possible are registered for the vaccine. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a bus of 100 individuals going to Fair Park from Southeast Dallas, the library, getting their vaccine. But we also need to make sure that these folks have the resources necessary. Throughout the pandemic, I've been an advocate for ensuring that folks have access to resources in terms of rent assistance, small business assistance. And one of the things that I bring to the table is that I'm probably the most fluent in Spanish, and we have a large Spanish-speaking population in our city. So for me to be able to communicate with constituents and a broader community, I think is extremely important. But those are the type of things we need to focus on moving forward, ensuring that people have the resources that they need to recover from the pandemic.
Thank you. Terence, then Yolanda, then Ruth.
For some reason, can you hear me? For some reason, we lost connection.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Now, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Our city's economy has been greatly impacted by COVID. What is the role of city council and specifically your intended action to support our growth as a city?
I think, yes, our city has definitely been impacted by the COVID virus, and definitely our businesses here in Southeast Dallas particularly. As mentioned earlier, 75217 and 227 is one of the highest hit areas of the COVID virus. One of the things I think we could do is utilize federal funds that are available to help rebuild the infrastructure of our businesses here in Southeast Dallas, as well as a point of economic development. We can use those funds available to help them expand their businesses, reinvent the wheel of their businesses, and go back to the drawing board so that they can be more viable business in our community.
Okay, thank you. Yolanda?
The role of a city council is policy. They help implement the policy and then help the city manager with the budget. And I watched the budget process. And so what District 5 ended up with during the budget process was solar panels and $500 put back in for bike lanes. We have one bike lane currently in District 5, and that's on Lake June. What we didn't hear was senior citizen who often talks about the crumbling sidewalks. So the role of the city council is to represent their district first. And so I think what we really need to work on is how, and you talk about COVID, let me get to COVID. They also had rental assistance. I sent the email early on asking that the money be divided equally. It ended up being a mess, so hopefully they straighten it out. I watched city council and they did not, they gave back a lot of money back to the federal government because they did not have, quote unquote, enough nonprofit who could help manage rental assistance. Okay. That's the council member responsibility to make sure Mr. Broadnax and his.
All right. And Ms. Ruth.
Thank you. My role will be to aggressively pursue economic development and building. We need to turn these empty lots into revenue producing lots. We need to take the buildings that are completely, shouldn't even be standing. We're kind of shocked that they're still standing. We need to replace those with businesses and housing that can produce for us. So that is going to be my role, to aggressively pursue the growth of businesses and homes that can be revenue generating for the city.
Okay, thank you so much. So kind of some of the words I've heard bubble up through some of the answers, I want to kind of back up for some folks. When we talk about the city budget, when we talk about districts specifically and the dollars they may or may not need, also one of the questions was, you would be just one representative for the entire city, and all the different parts of our city demand different things from the city budget. So how do you work alongside the rest of your city council members to make things happen for your district and for the entire city as a whole? I'm going to start with Terence on this one. I'm going to go to Jaime, then Ruth, and then Yolanda.
I think in order to get something done at the table, you definitely can't be combative and out of control. You have to be able to work with your colleagues. And that's just business 101. In order to get something done, you have to be able to sit at the table and have a business mind in order to get it done and make sure that it is done. And the only way that we can get that done in Southeast Dallas with the other, as a councilman and working with the other councilmen, is that we do it together in solidarity and with the best intentions of our district. And so that's what we definitely need. Someone who's not afraid to speak up for their district, as well as go to the table and say, yes, my district deserves a fair share of a piece of the pie. And I think that's what has happened in the past. We haven't had anyone to actually have that voice and speak up for our district and ask for their fair share of the piece of the pie, because the money is there. Each councilman is given a certain allotment. And it's in the past year or so, it has not been used. So definitely we need someone that can speak up for our district and you get our fair share of the budget.
Thank you. Jaime?
Yes, so I think since I've been on the school board, I've exhibited the ability to build coalitions and work well with individuals. I've already mentioned the talented and gifted school that came to Southeast Dallas. Nathaniel Hawthorne is also getting a brand new school, $30 million school that was not in the plans initially. So I did what I had to do to get the support that I needed. And since I've been on the council, I've continued working with individuals, and I feel like I have the respect of my colleagues. But one of the most important things you can do is when you're talking to these folks in private conversations over the phone, not all the work that gets done is at the horseshoe. You got to talk to them about equity. Let them know that by investing in our communities of high need, that's going to benefit the city as a whole. And I think that by having the correct temperament, the correct demeanor, those are the type of things that'll help you get things done around the horseshoe.
Thank you. Ruth, and then Yolanda.
So I have spent over 25 years as a human resources executive, helping to bridge the gap between senior executives in the front line who have often very opposing views and goals, and to help them to get unified around a goal. So that is what I would use those skills and experiences here to work with the other council members with facts, and to provide them with the facts of why these additional resources need to be allocated to D5, to show them. So there's an acronym that I use, it's WIFM, what's in it for me. So I need to, so that I speak to why they should, and how they and their constituents, their residents also benefit by helping to build D5. And so that's going to be my approach to deal with it from a facts perspective, and helping them to understand the bigger picture of why they should maybe give up a little bit to help us so that we can grow together as a city and have the equity that we need.
Okay, thank you. Yolanda? You're muted, you're muted.
It takes someone who understands City Hall and knows City Hall and understand the budget. As you all know, and I said time and time again, when I got on the park board, we had nothing. And I'm so thankful that my colleagues supported everything I put forward, and I also supported them as well. So I am glad to let everyone know that I did leave City Hall with a good name and with a good record. But it's going to take a council member who understands and really work hard for the district. And sometimes you have to fight the good fight. When I serve on the park board, I am advocating for District 5 only. And so it's going to take someone who understands, who can read the budget and know that it's there. And so I will just continue doing what I was doing. And for $13 million for all the projects we have in District 5, knowing that we came in with nothing, no bond money, but it took a lot of hard work going to all the bond meetings late night, but it was well worth it. It was well worth it for our district.
Thank you. Brief commercial break. You all can take a sip of water. Our sponsors have been fantastic in all that they've done for Monday Night Politics and their support of what we do here. Sponsors like the Dallas Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Metropolitan Dallas Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Sigma Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. The Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce have been awesome sponsors. Our Greater Dallas League of Young Professionals. Again, if you're out there in the virtual world and you're just scrolling by and you don't know who these awesome looking folks are on your screen, this is Monday Night Politics. These are 4 of your District 5 candidates we're talking to this evening: Yolanda Williams, Ruth Torres, Jaime Resendez, and Terence Perkins. My name is Jolie Angel Robinson. I have the wonderful opportunity to be the moderator for this evening. Miss Molly Belt and the Dallas Examiner, this is what they do. They bring this Monday Night Politics to us every Monday night during this campaign season. So everybody out there has a wonderful opportunity to hear from candidates that are running. Local politics is where it's at, folks. Local politics is where it's at. So thank you for those that are watching. Please be sure to share. This is being recorded, so people will be able to take a look at it afterwards. I'm going to dive into, I think something that may be a kind of District 5 pertinent topic, and that's the state troopers. I know for District 5 residents, the state troopers in the community, some were happy about it, some were not so happy about the state troopers being in the district. Please give me your thoughts. Everybody, every one of you mentioned public safety as a top priority. Give me your thoughts about balancing public safety, the tools and what needs to be done to help support public safety, and what that looks like for you. For this particular one, I'm going to get started with Yolanda, and then I'm going to go to Ruth, Jaime, and then Terence. Miss Yolanda.
The state troopers came up during the former chief meeting. We had a meeting, and it was a lot. It was a mixture of people in the crowd, districts, I'm sorry. So someone asked and recommended that the state trooper came, and what the news media was found to be what they were surprised about, that we asked and we cheered on when she said, bring the state troopers back. And they interviewed me. We welcome, I'll say the people in the community welcome the state trooper. We just don't want anyone to be harassed. We recognize we need help. And so from the majority of the constituents, that's what they were asking for the state troopers to come back without the harassment and just do some training so they will know how to deal with the community. And so if you look at our crime stats, they're going up instead of down. So we need help. And so it's going to take a leader to understand that we need help. And it is not up to the police to police our communities. We have to also do our part. See something.
All right. I think her final phrase was see something, say something. All right, Miss Ruth, and then Jaime.
So I think that we need to have a balance here. We need our officers. We need my constituents want a high visibility of officers to address the crime, but we also need officers that are going to respect the communities and make sure that they are serving the communities of color in a respectful way and treating them fairly and with justice. I think if we spoke with officers that they would agree that, we need to address the root causes of crime, and that is the poverty level. And that's why I'm so focused on economic development and affordable housing, so that we get to the root cause. We can't keep doing things the same way and expect a different result. The police can only investigate and enforce after crime occurs. We need to give people hope and an option so that they can take care of their families and not have that revolving door into jails and prisons. So that's what I'm going to be advocating for: fair treatment of our people while we're getting that public safety and the service from officers, and dealing with the root causes of poverty that are creating the crime.
Thank you. Jaime?
Thank you so much. So first of all, we obviously need law enforcement to maintain order in a civilized society, but we need to be careful about having law enforcement officers that are not used to being in urban areas patrolling our communities. I've been advocating for the state troopers to help the Dallas Police Department as it relates to the street racing situation. That could free up some resources from the Dallas Police Department to allow the Dallas Police Department to do the necessary patrolling in our communities. But long-term, when it comes to public safety, again, we need to make sure that we're addressing the causes of crime. And the way you do that is by investing the necessary resources in the communities of highest need.
Thank you. Terence?
I think when we had the presence of the state troopers, a lot of the neighbors near where I live was excited to have them in the community because it was help controlling some of the street racing and some of the legal activity within the community. I think there's other ways and other resources that we can bring into District 5, such as we can partner with Dallas County Sheriff Department and try to bring in some of those resources, because I think when you bring in the presence of the state troopers, some may be a little bit more fearful. And again, a lot of them are not trained to work with individuals in the urbanized areas. They mostly patrol the highways and near the state capitol or out on foreign roads. So I think, but police presence is definitely needed in our area. And again, the only way that we can really deal with crime, we have to deal with the root cause of the issue. And a lot of it is poverty. And that's why we started something called Perkins Pushing Out Poverty. And with Jolie, we have met the needs of so many families here in Southeast Dallas area, not only with our food project, but with other resources to help push out poverty and try to change the dynamics of the family, and which will cut down and eliminate some of our crime.
Thank you. So with the bond, with redistricting, with whatever topic is at hand, transparency and accountability are two of the main words, right? So what does that look like? What is your responsibility if elected? What is your responsibility to help increase, highlight transparency and accountability, even when it comes to development projects, who's getting tax breaks or incentives or anything like that, bond money, how it is or is not spent. And again, redistricting is a hot topic as well. What is your role, if elected, in that space to ensure transparency and accountability? I am going to start with, let me go to my list. I'm going to start with Terence, Yolanda, Ruth, and then Jaime.
Transparency is very important. And I think with the constituents here in District 5, I think we see the lack of transparency to ensure that we have a voice at the table. And with redistricting. Redistricting is something that is going to take place. I think that District 5 is one of the smallest, it is the smallest district within the council. And we definitely need to broaden that. And so that gives us more tax dollars, and as well, it broaden our area of service. And it brings more resources into the Southeast Dallas area. So I think, again, our budget is very important. Redistricting is very important. And with the redistricting, it definitely will open up other avenues for Southeast Dallas to bring more tax dollars to our area. But transparency is very important. And one thing with that, we have to, as a councilman, I definitely will push for an outside firm to come in and to help oversee some of our costs and how we can actually utilize our dollars in the best way to serve our constituents. And I think that's something that the city like and is an oversight.
Thank you so much. Now I can't remember which rotation. Did I say Yolanda after Terence?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm on it. I'm still got the juice. Okay, we'll go Yolanda, Ruth, and then Jaime.
Well, transparency is very, very important. And I think as we sit here, it's very important that the voters know who they're voting for and understand. You know, I've made some mistakes in my life, and I'm not perfect. But when it comes to the affairs of the business affairs, the voters have a right to know exactly who we are. And I ask the voters, when you talk about transparency, Google each candidate and see what comes up. This is a crucial time for us. We need to not Google nothing on their personal life, that's off limit, but we're going to be responsible for the budget. We're going to be responsible for major decisions, and the voters have a right to see who the candidates are. Google your candidates and see what come up. And when we also talk about, lastly, I just say for the budget, you just have to watch the money and understand City Hall and know how to maneuver. And as far as outsourcing, Mr. Broadnax get paid $400,000. It's not an attack on him. We need to allow the city staff to do the job and give them the opportunity.
Thank you. Ruth, and then Jaime.
So I am focused on making sure that the community is involved in the budget process, as well as for any contracts, any things that are coming up for vote. I will be supportive of regular and open communications with the community on the issues that are coming up for vote and issues that affect our district, as well as push for having an office in the district so that it is accessible, so that I'm accessible for the district. I also want to see that every board and commission, as well as the city council, that there is a summary of what happens with the votes afterwards, so that if people cannot join in and observe that council meeting or that board and commission, that they can know what happens. I think there's a big loss of information there, and we need to be able to engage the community and make sure that they're aware of information, so that they can be involved ahead of the time.
Thank you. Jaime?
So community engagement is key when it comes to transparency. And so one of the things that I've done since I've been on the council is hold bilingual town hall meetings, budget town hall meetings as well. I believe I might have hosted the first all Spanish town hall meeting as well, because again, we have a large Spanish speaking population in our community. And as it relates to accountability, I think it's important for every member in our community to have a seat at the table. One of the changes that I made was to the city code that allowed non-citizens to serve on boards and commissions. And in May, folks, the city would get the opportunity to change the charter and allow non-citizens to serve on boards and commissions, because we know that government works best when every resident has a seat at the table, when diverse perspectives are expressed. That's how we come up with more equitable policy making. So I hope that the people that are listening can see that and support those type of changes. Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple of you have mentioned the boards and commissions. How do you incentivize folks getting engaged in city processes? How do you tell people about the opportunity for boards and commissions and getting them involved? Oftentimes our board and commission spots go unfilled from some city council members. So how do you ensure that does not happen in your particular district? And how do you get folks involved in the work of the city? I'm going to go to Jaime, Terence, Yolanda, and Ruth.
Right, so it's important to have diverse representation on our city boards and commissions. Ideally, folks from the community, but again, it's not like people are banging down my door trying to serve on these various boards and commissions. So again, I did touch on the city code change that was made, and it was broadly supported by the city council. Again, it's important to have diverse perspectives on these boards. We have people who have grown up in this community, graduated from Dallas ISD, graduated from community college or some other educational institution in our community, who cannot at this time serve on the park board, the city plan commission, civil service board, or the redistricting commission. And I'm the one who's been leading that change in order to provide greater access to government to underrepresented groups.
Thank you. Terence, and then Yolanda.
Thank you. I think it's very important to have diverse representation on our boards and commissions. And District 5, we definitely do like that, even at this present time. And it's very hard to get individuals to serve because they are very time consuming and you have to be dedicated and committed. And I think one way that you can do that is reach out to in different areas of the community. And as a councilman, if I'm elected, definitely reach out to diverse groups and organizations to help identify those individuals that want to serve and in a collaborative effort. And I think that's what has to take place. I mean, you can't just go without those positions filled, because then there is a lack of transparency and the constituents don't have an opportunity to know all the things that are available to them. And through your boards and commissions, you would have those individuals help get the word out in the community of the upcoming events of the boards that they serve. So again, diversity on those different boards are very important. And the only way that we can do that and get individuals to serve is through a collaborative effort.
Thank you. Yolanda?
Well, I think it's important that constituents follow their leader. When you're hardworking and you work hard and you make it a little exciting, because board and commission is non-paid. I didn't know anything about the park board, so I did enjoy serving on the park board the 5 years that I served on the park board. So I think you have to host meetings, and as a council person, I can personally talk about, if I'm elected, my experience. I enjoy working and for the district and in the community for Park and Rec, and not just Park and Rec. I think we have to educate people, allow them to let people know what's out there, because a lot of people do not know what's out there. And I'll say that I worked tirelessly and I enjoyed it. The 5 years I served on the park board, I missed 2 days. Unfortunately, Mr. Perkins didn't get to pick up where I left off at because his tenure on the park boards was short. It's not that you have to have someone who lives in the district, but our current park board representative does not live in the district. So we are leaving projects on the table because, as anyone know, when the bond is passed, the goal is to get your...
Finish your sentence, Yolanda.
When the bond is passed, the goal is to get your projects done the first 2 years. So we may not even see some of those projects. Thank you.
Ruth?
So one of the first things is to make sure that the community is aware of the various positions that are open and what that role includes, what it covers, and what are the boundaries and the requirements, the attendance requirements, when do they meet, so that we can actively recruit. Recruitment is part of the function that of human resources. I'm very familiar with how to recruit, and also in identifying what might be the barriers of why people wouldn't get involved, so that we can address those. So I think that there's a lot of people who don't know how to get on a board. And so that's, as I've been talking to people through the campaign, I'm identifying who are the people who really seem engaged or really care about certain aspects, so that I can make sure that these are people that I reach out to, as well as the entire community. We use social media, we use things when we want to. This is one area that we need to be a lot more proactive and about to engage the community and being involved. And then when they apply, we actually need to listen to them and give them a chance instead of just whoever we want. We need to make sure we're including that community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. From the Q&A, it goes a little bit back to housing and that conversation. And I'm going to read it as is. As a council person, your vote impacts the entire city and not just your district. So what will you do to facilitate low-income housing north of I-30 for renters at or below 50% of the area median income? I'm going to start with Ruth on that. I'm going to read it one more time, and then I'm going to go to Yolanda, then Terence, and then Jaime. As a council person, your vote impacts the entire city and not just your district. So what will you do to facilitate low-income housing north of I-30 for renters at or below 50% of the area median income?
Thank you. So it's a great point. And that's another thing that I've asked for from the housing department is, where is affordable housing by district? And it's because that's not readily available. We need to see that every district of the city has a fair share of offering affordable housing. And so that is going to assist us in the planning and saying, hey, we need to provide it here. Again, looking for mixed use, mixed income properties. We don't want to have concentrations of poverty, but each district needs to provide affordable housing, especially in North Dallas, where there are sidewalks and infrastructure. We have an aging population. We have disabled folks, where having a sidewalk and access to specialists with doctors and things that they can get to easily if they don't have a vehicle. We need to make sure that that there are those things that are available in that area for veterans, for disabled. So there's a lot of groups that we can look for North Dallas to house. We want to make sure every district has a fair share. Thank you.
Thank you. Yolanda, and then
Okay, first we must define affordable housing, because affordable housing, low income is not the same when you're south of the city. So I was watching council and I noticed that, and it takes, once again, a council member who knows how to get things done at City Hall. And I'm not going to beat up on North Dallas, because they have leaders who understands and know how to get the things that they want. I watched this particular district and they use tax credits, but they put in the contract for the developer, only 10% will be used for tax credits. And so they met the housing requirements according to the federal guidelines. So that's why it's important to have a council person who understands that we too can get the same thing, and we can. And I want to be very careful when I talk about affordable housing poverty, because you can't push out poverty and then talk about kicking the same people out who need it. So I would like to focus, and we may need to revisit this medium income, because we're not as poor as people like to put us out to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Terence, and then Jaime.
Yes, I think definitely, like, again, it goes back to equality and equity. I mean, they're definitely interchangeable words. And, we had to work with our colleagues in a collaborative effort in order to get things done for our community as well as their community. And we have to work with that in a unified effort, and also work with the Dallas Housing Department and their efforts to provide affordable housing in our community. And again, that's something that we need. We need someone that can sit at the table, work in a collaborative effort and in a unified effort in order to get that done. I mean, it's not about North Dallas, South Dallas, East Dallas, or West Dallas. This is Dallas. And when you're a city councilman, you are elected to represent the citizens of Dallas. not just only your community, which will be District 5, if I do serve. But again, you have to work with your colleagues in a collaborative effort and understand that equality is very important, as well as equity. And the only way we can get that done is with one voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Jaime?
So I think we need to continue pushing for single family, market rate homes, affordable homes in Southeast Dallas. I'm not eager to push low income housing tax credits in Southern Dallas in general, because that's not the way to continue building our communities. I've already voted in favor of a low income housing tax credit in Northern Dallas just recently. So we got to find a way to overcome this NIMBYism that we hear from. Listen to the community, and if it makes sense, vote your conscience. But if it doesn't, you need to make sure we do what's in the best interest of our community. Because again, in District 5, we need to continue pushing for single family market rate homes. And if anybody feels like they had to fight to stop LIHTC funds in District 5, then they were being misled, because those projects have been dead on arrival since I've been on the council.
Thank you so much. Another question that was in the Q&A, someone wants to know about each one of your community accomplishments. Over the past 6 months, over the past year or 2 years, you specifically, what have you done for the city or your district specifically in the past 6 months, a year to 2 years? I'm going to start with Yolanda, then go Ruth, then Jaime, and then Terence.
I'm going to start with 2 years, because I didn't just start working because I decided that I wanted to run for city council. So my past accomplishment, I stayed involved after the park board, after the election, when I started the senior turkey drive. And as many of you all know, my mom died August the 28th, but I went ahead and had the Thanksgiving dinner at Pleasant Oaks. This past year, we had a drive-through turkey drive, and I still continue to provide assistance to Pleasant Oak Recreation Center. They had team track, where on Fridays and Saturday nights, the team would get together. So I would sponsor some other foods. I was involved in the Black History program, the Cinco de Mayo, and at JDC Turner, I'm on a quest to purchase 45 hula hoops for the seniors. So far, I believe I purchased maybe 5 or 10. And I just participated in Councilmember Atkins just Saturday, his cleanup trash attack. I was in Fort North Dallas 2 weeks ago, helping Pastor Durrell clean up a homeless encampment. And so I'm still doing COVID, registering seniors, and all that was after I lost my bid for election.
Thank you. Ruth?
Thank you. So starting from 2 years, I think it was back in 2016, 2017, started I think it was 2016, started a 2-year project with housing. And that was a project that I worked on that resulted in the assessment to help Dallas to desegregate and become compliant with federal law. I worked to advocate for the Police Oversight Board, which thankfully was successful and gained the approval of City Council. I've hosted several workshops to help people to start their own business, as well as inform the community about the housing repair program, the HIP. As far as COVID, I helped to put the kits together for people to make masks as soon as it started. I've also been delivering food with meals for, Meals on Wheels with VNA to serve our seniors and disabled. So I've been very involved in a lot of different things. Those are the ones right off the top of my head, but I've been very involved in a lot of community issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Jaime, and then Terence.
So I've mentioned the talented and gifted school that I brought to Southeast Dallas, the first of its kind. Most of the students at that school are from the community in Southeast Dallas. That school is doing really well. It's going to be one of the top schools in the state of Texas. Second thing I could talk about is improvements in public safety. I've been a leader in addressing the street racing situation. Nobody was talking about it last election cycle. We've gotten a spectator ordinance. We're looking at seizing cars and seeing what the legislature can do. It's a citywide issue. Prior to my being on the council, Southeast Dallas was the epicenter of that type of activity. We still need to work on addressing it, obviously. Another thing I can talk about is the 3 significant community development projects that I've initiated in less than one term in the middle of a pandemic. I talked about the parkland that we're acquiring, that the city is acquiring. I talked about Bruton and Buckner, looking into acquiring that former grocery store. And the other project is on near St. Augustine and Elam. It'll be an integrated community development project, with Parkland having a standalone facility, a nonprofit having a standalone facility with programming for the arts and technology. There'll be a housing component for people to own and build equity, some townhomes or some potential condos in that community. So those are just a few of the things that I can mention, but I can keep on going about some of the things that I've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrence?
In the past 2 years, been very active here in Southeast Dallas, and prior to then, working with the Department of Family and Protective Services, we provided shelter and resources for abused and neglected children for over 125 kids right here in Southeast Dallas. We currently opened up the shelter for a 24-bed facility for our homeless teen boys here in Southeast Dallas as well. Also, we started a P3 project where we have served over 6.6 million pounds of food since the pandemic actually has hit. And also, along with that, we registered individuals for the COVID vaccination. We also reached out to our homeless population to take them food and clothing and warm blankets throughout the cold nights here in Southeast Dallas, because our homeless population has really grown, as well as a few other things. I mean, we've been involved in so many other things for us. Crawford Park, Friends of Crawford Park, we've definitely led that to ensure that our parks stay clean and our green spaces used as a place for families to meet, and have addressed meeting with some of our neighbors and working with them with the initiative to fight street racing, working with Major Ismail and the Southeast Dallas Patrol. There's a number of things. I can just go on and on and on, but I'm glad to be a part of Southeast Dallas and leading the effort for its change. Thank you.
Thank you. We're kind of rounding the corner. We're not quite to your finishing arguments yet. I'm going to do a brief commercial break again as my dog is barking in the background. This is Monday Night Politics that you're tuned into, everyone. My name is Jolie Angel Robinson. My pronouns are she, her, hers. This is an awesome opportunity for you to hear from the candidates that are running in your district. Tonight, we're hearing from the candidates in District 5. We're hearing from Jaime Resendez, Terence Perkins, Yolanda Williams, and Ruth Torres. This is all brought to us by Ms. Molly Belt in the Dallas Examiner. Thank you, thank you, thank you for her leadership and legacy in our city. Thank you to Christy and Miss Robin behind the scenes that are making sure that we're live on Facebook. Christy's doing an amazing job as timekeeper as well. So many of you have gone door to door, right? You've engaged folks across Pleasant Grove in your district. Tell me a little bit about what are the issues that you hit you the most, right? I know we talked about the top 3 of your district or of the city, but really, as you've gone door to door, is there a question that you've heard that you want to answer here? Is there a concern that a resident has given you or said, that's not being addressed that you want to give some airtime to and lift up at this moment? I'm going to start with Jaime, then I'm going to go Terrence, Yolanda, and Ruth.
So thank you for that question. One of my favorite things of campaigning, matter of fact, the favorite thing of mine during campaigns is knocking on doors, talking to the voters. And some of the issues that I've heard about, and I'll talk about 2 of them. People talk about the loud music that goes on in our communities late at night, and people talk about the random gunfire that they also hear in our community. And so Southeast Dallas is one of the areas that has the least amount of civic engagement. We have the lowest voter turnout relative to every other district in the city. And so one of the things that I've helped do during my first term, is start what's called the Southeast Dallas Neighborhood Coalition. And this group consists of leaders from various crime watch groups, homeowners associations, and other neighborhood groups in our community. So these leaders get together to discuss ways to work more closely with the city to address issues related to policy. And they created a subcommittee, crime and safety subcommittee. And the top two things they want to start working on is addressing the loud music situation and the random gunfire situation. So it's important for all of us to work together as a community. We need to stay engaged, not just during election time, but throughout the time that we're serving our community, and keep them as engaged as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrence, then Yolanda, then Ruth.
Yeah, thanks. I think one of the most interesting things that I hear while campaigning is, I guess I shouldn't say it's interesting because it's definitely a problem. One of the most is street racing. Street racing is one of the things that is just inedible. I mean, it's here. We have to do something about it. And as well as the gunfire, it's a late night gunfire, and individuals concerned about retail shopping. I mean, that's something one of the biggest challenges that we have here in our community, where individuals have to go, a little bit east, which is in Mesquite, and spend their money and bring the product back home where they live. And that's something they want to definitely see change. And the only way that we can do that is work together in unified effort and work in a collaborative effort in order to bring that change to Southeast Dallas. And so that's something that I hear from the voters. And with the voters, I know we definitely can make that change and bring more equality and equity to Southeast Dallas.
Thank you. Yolanda, then Ruth.
What I hear is, and what we've been hearing for the past 10, 15 years is, I'm not going to say crime at this time because we know crime is high, but we have to address the code issue. District 5 feels like code does not work for us, our taxpayer dollars. Many of you all know Mr. Wynn. He loved doing what he does. Mr. Wynn should not be all over District 5 picking up litter. And when you're at City Hall, and I say this from experience, you have a direct connection with staff. Staff do not mind working. It takes a leader who understand that is our responsibility. And when you talk about, I'm going back to something that was said about the city as a whole. I do know how to work with everyone, but 14-1 was put in place so we can have a representative. So the first responsibility is you owe this to the citizen of District 5. And after that, then you work as a city as a whole. But it's the code issues is number one, and then the drag racing. But I think code is something that you can address immediately and you can get rid of.
Okay, thank you. Ruth?
So I hear a lot from folks about the gunfire and street racing, which I have like I said, the legislation change on street racing, as well as looking for an alternative to speed bumps that could slow people down, as well as the education piece. On the gunfire, I remember as I was on Chief Hall's community board there for a while. And one of the things that we were told was that there was a software that was available that would tell us where the gunfire was coming from so we could address, so it could be addressed by DPD. And so I want to follow up on that. I've asked about it several times. Where are we with that to have solutions so people can sleep in peace? Another complaint that I get is about the poor quality of schools. People complain that they have to take their kids to other areas because there is a poor quality of schools in this area. And my research does show that that is the case. We have a number of schools that are underperforming here and have not improved, including DISD and charter schools. So it's an issue that affects our kids because they...
Finish your sentence.
So thank you. So we have to partner with the ISD as well as the charters to improve the performance of these schools to be more attractive for people to live here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, folks, this has been an awesome opportunity to hear from the candidates that are running in District 5. We've asked a variety of questions, from equity to development to public safety and all of those in between. If I had to give a plug, although I'm not running, it would be that your voice is absolutely critical. Your voice and your vote in how local politics is run is absolutely critical. So we need you to vote. I'm going to give you a couple of dates to remember, and you still have time. If you're not registered, if you need to go check and see if you're registered, I can give you a website. I mean, that wasn't even what I was going to do today, but there's a website that you can find out additional information. You can go to votetexas.gov to find out if you're registered to vote. If you want to see the dates about the upcoming election, you can go to dallascounty.org. You can find your nearest voting location there. You can do all of those awesome things. I just really am passionate about folks getting involved in their local politics because it's where it's at, right? It's you're concerned about your potholes in your streets. Sanitation crew is not coming to pick up your bulk trash. You've heard about the speed racers, the random gunfire. You've heard about Parks and Rec. You've heard about a lot of topics that day to day impact us the most. And the candidates that you're looking on this screen at are the individuals that can do something about it. Yes, there's policy that happens at the state and the federal level, but our local level, really, I put it to people this way, and then I'm going to get off my soapbox. The pain points that most of us experience day to day are our city council members that have some control over it. All right. The pain of whatever that looks like day to day typically is your city council that has a little bit of control over that, or can get you to who you need to go to. Is it the housing department you need to talk to? Is it code you need to talk to? Then they know who that you need to talk to get some stuff done. All right, Jolie's off her soapbox. I appreciate you all for joining us. I'm going to have the candidates, they're each going to get 2 minutes, kind of their wrap up argument here, why you should vote for them, what they plan to do in their first 100 days, whatever they want to say, their place on the ballot, whatever they want to say in these 2 minutes. This is their time to give us a wrap up of why they're running in District 5, why your vote matters, and why they need your vote. So I'm going to go back to my sheet from how I started the first time. That means Yolanda's going to go first, then Ruth, then Jaime, and then Terence. This is your 2 minutes, kind of wrap up. Tell us all we need to know.
Well, District 5 voters, first of all, I want to say thank you again, Dallas Examiner and everyone, the candidates. I ask you for your support. I have been consistent. I have been involved in working in the community for over 25 years. I go back to 2010 when it was redistricted, up 12, 1 o'clock at night, fighting and advocating for District 5 that they do not split our community. I was also on the census in 2010. I served on the census this year. I was the voice. Recently, when they were hiring the chief in 2010, I just read an article that I've forgotten about, where I asked them, why did they invite us down here if they didn't want to be transparent and they didn't want to hear from us? I also sent a letter recently to Mr. Broadnax when they was looking for the new police chief. District 5 did not have any representation. I asked him, why was we left out? Well, I thank Mr. Broadnax because he sent the letter and we did end up with a representation on the panel to select a chief. Everything that I've done, I've always advocated. I've spoken up numerous times at City Hall, not for me, advocating for us. We need someone at City Hall who's going to work for all, someone that's going to get the job done. Sometimes you cannot vote with your colleagues. It's just the way it is. If the vote is wrong, it's wrong. At no time should we support any campaign manager serving on the redistricting committee. We have to look at ethics. We have to look at transparent. I ask you all to go back and look at every candidate, including myself. Look at not my personal life. Personal life is off limit. Look at our business life. Separate everything from business to community service. What I do for a living, how I get paid is not the same as community service. I ask you all to go back and vet your information. I have proven myself that I can get it done, but all the many projects that I've done for us at District 5. I ask for you for your vote. I am number 3 on the ballot, and thank you all for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Ruth, and then Jaime.
About 50 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came to Dallas, but at the urging of the wealthy and powerful, a group went to the plane and told him, don't get off. And he didn't. Dallas rejected change, and it has been stuck in a time warp ever since. Dallas hasn't changed because it keeps electing candidates backed by those same wealthy and powerful to maintain the status quo. Candidates that lack the skills and ethics to bring the results needed. The decisions made by those who are elected will impact our communities for up to 40 years. Once those contracts are signed, there is no going back. We need to protect our community for fair contracts. preventing gentrification. It's time to stop doing the same thing and expect different results. It's time to elect candidates with skills and ethics who will vote for contracts that are in the community's best interest, that will not accept tokens to survive the day while robbing us of equity and consuming opportunity for a lifetime. It's time for change. It's time for ethics and accountability to bring Dallas the equity it deserves, to have a representative for D5 that will aggressively pursue the opportunities that it needs in housing and economic development. I am Ruth Torres, and I'm the only candidate with the business experience and ethics to bring D5 the equity that it deserves. Please vote for Ruth Torres. Please visit my website, torresfordallas.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Jaime?
Thanks once again for having me this evening. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Since being elected to council, I've been a strong advocate for equity and opportunity for all, whether it was by amending the city code to increase access to government for underrepresented groups, advocating for increased internet access in high-need communities before and during the pandemic, riding my bicycle on every single street in the district to better identify infrastructure needs and highlight the incredible trails in Southeast Dallas, or ending up in a high-speed chase during a ride-along with the Dallas Police Department while working to address the dangerous street racing situation in our community, my focus has been on improving the quality of life for every resident in our city. But there's much more work that needs to be done. Now is not the time for Southeast Dallas to have a revolving door of representatives. That's why I'm here this evening, respectfully asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Terence?
First, I'd like to say thank you, Dallas Examiner, for having me. I think it's been a great panelist. I think it's been a great evening with the panelists here that are here. We all serve in different areas and we all care about Southeast Dallas for sure. But I think me as an individual, I've served this community with passion. We started with the pandemic, even before the pandemic, but really what sticks out the most is that when you see individuals that come through your line to get food and desire help because they're hurting, because they've been impacted one way or the other. And when you're able to meet that need, you're able to give them some tangible that they can take back to their family, and you meet them where they are. They need someone that is passionate about them and that's willing to listen to them and their concerns, and not only their concerns, but try to meet some of their needs and utilize the resources that we have here in the city of Dallas and bring those resources and make sure those resources get to Southeast Dallas and bridge the gap with all ethnicities and walks of life, regardless of what economic background you come from or what your ethnicity or your sexual orientation may be. We need someone who's passionate, that cares for the individual, and that just don't start working when it's campaign time. This is a 24/7 job. You have to meet people where they are and meet their needs with your resources that you are able to gather and give to the people. So I'm asking you to vote for Terence Perkins. If you will, go to Perkins for Dallas and check me out and see what we're doing. Not only that, follow us on Facebook. We're doing a great, awesome job here in Southeast Dallas. And again, we're meeting the people's needs and meeting them where they are. If you want change, vote for Terence Perkins.
Well, y'all have heard our District 5 candidates, Yolanda Williams, Ruth Torres, Jaime Resendez, and Terence Perkins. I appreciate y'all's time. The Dallas Examiner, Ms. Molly Belt, early voting starts Monday, April 19th. Election day is May 1st. Vote, 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 and vote some more. You can't double vote, but tell all your people to vote. Y'all have a wonderful night and y'all be safe. Thanks for joining us, panelists. Thank you so much.